Chapter 31. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's her fault. Tang Susu dodged it easily, but she pretended to be afraid and kept stepping back. Don't come over. Get lost. Hee, little beauty, follow me. Your brother and the others can't afford to feed you. Wasn't there no food when you went to look for supplies? Oh. Tang Susu's eyes glistened. The food in the convenience store has been taken by others. I know where they are. Follow me, and you'll have an endless supply of food to eat. An endless supply of food. Thinking of the food that filled her warehouse and her backpack that was almost out of space, Tang Susu shook her head. I still have countless pieces of jewelry in my villa. Don't you young ladies like these? Here you go, all of them. Tang Susu thought of the pile of jewelry she had gotten today. Each of them was extraordinary. She shook her head again. The man suddenly felt impatient and was about to explode. I need protection. Will you protect me when the zombies come? Tang Susu looked at the iron door that was very close to her and said pitifully. The man did not hesitate and immediately nodded excitedly. Yes, yes, yes. Little beauty, don't be afraid, I'll definitely protect you. Sure. Tang Susu curled her lips into a smile. Then, her expression suddenly changed and became dangerous. Show me your sincerity. The next second, she turned around and disappeared from his sight. Before the fat man could react to what was going on, a greenish-gray arm came through the iron door. It wanted to grab Tang Susu, but it missed. Instead, it grabbed his shoulder and dug its sharp claws into his flesh. Blood spurted out instantly. Aw! The sudden burst of screams interrupted the dispute and fight on Tang Mingqi's side. Oh my god, he's been caught by a zombie. Roar! The grim-looking zombie grabbed the man and hurriedly put him into its big mouth, drooling. A group of people was screaming as they retreated in a hurry, and one of them even tripped. He was so scared that he crawled back on all fours, not even bothering to pick up his shoes. The fat man was so scared that his eyes rolled back. His large lump of meat was limp, and he could not put up any resistance at all. Save me, don't go, I'm begging you. As he spoke, a pool of yellow liquid quickly flowed out from under his body. Tang Susu's eyes flashed with a trace of disgust. Her two brothers quickly walked behind her. Are you okay? How can this kind of trash hurt? Bang! As she said that, a gunshot was heard. The zombie that was holding the fat man had a big black hole in its forehead and fell to the ground. A good-looking young man walked over with a black pistol in his hand. With a few more shots, he finished off the zombies at the door at once. What's going on? He furrowed his thick eyebrows and scanned the people present. The young girl from before was dazed for a moment before she hurriedly squeezed to the front and said with a righteous expression, it's her fault. She led Brother He to the door and he was caught by the zombies. I saw it with my own eyes. She wanted to seduce Brother He. Yu Qing immediately recalled that Tang Susu had almost stripped naked and crawled into his bed not long ago, and he was about to get angry. In a daze, he thought of her yesterday. Bold, special, and dazzling. How could she do such a stupid thing? However, when he looked at the girl and asked her for an answer, Tang Susu's eyes were shining as she looked behind him. Mom, Dad, brothers, why are you here? She went over. The three of them were slightly slower than Yu Qing, and they rushed up to hug her. Where were you? You scared us to death. You weren't back, I thought something happened to you. We've been waiting for you all afternoon, are you all right? What's going on? When the family gathered, there was nothing else in their eyes. As they talked, there was a warm atmosphere that others found difficult to interrupt. The girl beside him was already jealous of Tang Susu's two handsome brothers. This time, there was one more. Compared to the other two, he had a mature and steady charm. She suddenly felt jealous. Feng Li gritted her teeth, then suddenly let out a soft cry and grabbed Yu Cheng's arm. Ah, he's coming. Chapter 32. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Differences. Yu Cheng instinctively wanted to dodge. After what Tang Susu did, he was a little afraid of women. However, at that moment, he suddenly stopped and looked up at the girl. Tang Susu happened to look over and saw that Feng Li was holding his arm, but her eyes were staring at her. She didn't know what she was thinking. She was a little happy. She couldn't wait for him to get together with this woman so that Ying Qingya would lose a great help. Yu Cheng saw her looking away with a smile and talking to her family with a vivid expression, as if she didn't care about what they were doing. Yu Cheng furrowed her brows. Did she really not care? Or was she playing hard to get? It's okay. He might not turn into a zombie. He withdrew his hand and walked towards the fat man surnamed He. Rui grabbed his trousers tightly. Save me, I don't want to die. I won't be greedy for beauty anymore. Just as Yu Cheng was about to ask him about what happened, a burly security guard walked up to him and said sincerely, "Hello, sir, I'm Jean Dehai. You were really skilled just now. Are you a police officer?" He glanced at the gun on Yu Cheng's body. Tang Susu had just explained the situation to her parents, mainly to prevent Mr. Tang from being deceived into doing something good. On the other side, Yu Cheng led the security guard to the big brother. This security guard said that he's going to send people to guard the door of Chui Di Lake Garden in turns. I think this suggestion is not bad. Do you want to discuss with him on how to execute it? Is that so? Tang Mingzhou was not like his two younger brothers who had yet to step out into society. They did not look innocent and easy to bully. He smiled warmly and looked like he was easy to communicate with, but he simply said, "I'm sorry, but my family is not participating." Yu Cheng couldn't help but be stunned. Especially with people who stole our supplies and bullied my sister. Jean Dehai's expression immediately changed, and he quickly lowered his stance. It's our fault for not understanding the situation at that time. I'm sorry. It's really because everyone was too scared. But your sister is right, if there's no one guarding the door, who knows how many hidden dangers will arise. This is not only good for us, but also good for your family. In fact, ever since the Tang family moved in, they had sent people to keep watch at their villa every night in case of an emergency. However, Yu Cheng's actions directly made them, who were originally only guarding their own family, into the people guarding the entire Chui Di Lake Garden. Moreover, they had many men in their family. The results of the training in the past 2 days were remarkable, and they could put in more effort. On the other hand, they did not know if the performance of these cowards would hold them back. If these people were honest and obedient, then it would be fine. They would definitely do their best to help, but who knew if they were up to no good? Tang Mingzhou looked at Yu Cheng with a hint of resentment. We can't even take care of ourselves, so we shouldn't get involved. But if there are any zombies in the villa area, we'll help to clean them up. Jean Dehai did not want this result, so he looked at Yu Cheng awkwardly, hoping that she would help put in a good word for him. Yu Cheng didn't know what was going on, but seeing her friend's attitude, she didn't know what to say. Let's do it this way. Tang Susu slowly stuck out half of her face from her brother's side, revealing only a pair of clear peach eyes. Her smile was warm and soft, which made people want to love her. Brother Yu Cheng, you just have to work a little harder. You can just follow them and take turns to guard the place. Why bother us? Yu Cheng's heart moved, completely ignoring the sarcasm in her words. Hearing this soft, brother Yu Cheng, it wasn't as flirtatious and sickening as before. It was clear and refreshing, and the aftertaste was sweet. It actually made his ears heat up. Wait, what the hell? Whatever he was thinking, it must be an illusion. Chapter 33. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Nanjing University. What, you don't want to? Tang Susu said with a faint smile. Mr. and Mrs. Tang sensed her deliberate targeting, and were surprised that her attitude towards Yu Cheng had changed dramatically. On the surface, however, she tried to smooth things over. We have to go back and discuss this matter. This is a serious matter, and we can't make a decision right away. It's getting late, so everyone should go back and rest. Without waiting for the others to raise any objections, the family quickly left. Tang Susu didn't manage to say what she wanted to. Tang Mingzhou understood her unspoken meaning. However, he spoke up for Yu Cheng. Yu Cheng didn't push the blame to us on purpose, because he'll be leaving in a few days. Otherwise, he would definitely be the first one to step up. Oh. Tang Susu only hoped that the other party would leave as soon as possible, but could he really leave? He told his uncle that he was here. Yes, but he only had time to tell us the name of a villa before the communication was cut off. The group of people sent by his uncle had already set off. I don't know if the army has any special contact methods, or if his uncle will send another group of people. Tang Susu's eyes narrowed slightly. As expected, it was still possible for the plot to develop according to the original plot. She just didn't know if Ying Qingya would appear near Yu Cheng's top-floor apartment and meet the righteous soldiers. However, even if they did meet, without Yu Cheng's help, it would be impossible to reach a deeper level of cooperation with them. 6th of June, 7 p.m. Nanjing University was a key university in Nanjing Province. When the apocalypse broke out, it was the time for the students to prepare for their final revision. Since it was not a holiday, almost everyone was on campus. More than 30,000 students and staff members in the school had fallen into purgatory on the night before. After 2 days and 2 nights of turmoil, the wailing and turmoil all over the world had led to a heavy silence and despair. Most people stayed in their dormitories, shuddering in the corner of their beds, listening to the dragging footsteps outside the anti-theft door. They were so scared that they shed all their tears before they learned to save their strength. They plundered a bunch of small snacks and lived a difficult life with tap water. Those without food had to muster their courage to walk out of the door and knock down the zombies wandering in the corridor. Those who were once their roommates and classmates, their smiles and voices from the past appeared in front of their eyes. It was not easy to make a move against them. Someone cried and hit the stool again and again. I'm sorry, I want to live, sob. There were also people who couldn't bear to do it and were pounced on by the hungry zombies in the blink of an eye. They were torn into pieces in 2 or 3 moves. The degree of misery was no less than being dismembered by 5 horses. When the others who had just mustered up their courage saw this scene, they immediately took the opportunity to run back in, screaming and wailing. It was a chaotic scene. Ah, don't come near me. A girl saw that the zombie was about to catch her, so she pulled her roommate and pushed her over. No, a scream was abruptly cut off by the desperate roar of the zombies. Shao Jie, I didn't do it on purpose. The girl cried as she ran into an open dormitory room. She gritted her teeth and closed the door. Outside the door, the girl lying in a pool of blood looked in the direction she had left and reached out her hand longingly. Save, the light in her eyes eventually died down. The girls on this floor had just experienced a life-and death disaster and were still in shock. Someone heard a gunshot from the school door that almost pierced the sky. What's going on? Did you guys hear that? It's the army. Look, quickly look. There are soldiers outside. Sob, we're saved. The country has come to save us. Wait, who's the girl in the white dress leading the way? The girl who had just escaped death leaned against the balcony railing and exclaimed, Oh my God, it's Qingya. Qingya brought the army to save us. Chapter 34. You are listening at novelfull.audio. More than enough clothes, check my wealth. Early the next morning, Tang Susu stretched her body and got up from the bed. She started to take stock of yesterday's gains. Host, please wait a moment, the host's current wealth is 230 million. After deducting the host's previous debts, the host is left with 80 million. Tang Susu was about to open the closet when she paused. Let's not pay the debt first. It had been automatically deducted. I had already violated the interstellar trade regulations by making an exception for the host. If I am discovered, I will be fined, demoted, or even locked down. All right, she said. She didn't have enough points now anyway, so she couldn't buy artificial limbs for her brother for the time being. Tang Susu's slender and white fingers quickly slid through the sportswear in her closet. She found a light pink quick-drying shirt and a pair of titanium-gray sweatpants. The full body mirror reflected the slender and beautiful figure of a young girl. She was 1.65 meters tall, which was neither tall nor short, but her thin figure made her look light and tall. After washing up, she tied her hair into a light and beautiful bun. She then opened the shoe cabinet at the side, and rows of expensive running shoes, sports shoes, and casual shoes came into view. She put on her socks and put on a pair of pink and white shock-absorbing running shoes. Although most of the clothes she wore now were for the convenience of sports, Tang Susu still hoped that she could dress up as much as possible under the limited conditions. She couldn't lose her sense of beauty after the apocalypse. They had been preparing for so long in the hope that they could live a more leisurely life. On the other side, Mr. and Mrs. Tang and her 3 brothers also hadn't let go of their old habits. All of them were dressed neatly. Other than their shirts, they were all wearing the same black sports pants that wrapped around their long, straight legs. BDNV, the Tang family's genes weren't bad. Mr. Tang was a handsome man and Mrs. Tang was a beautiful woman, and their children had inherited all their good qualities. The eldest brother was elegant and steady. He always had a smile on his face, which made people feel very safe. However, many people did not know that he had a dark heart. The second brother was noble and sharp. He was the most good-looking one among the 3. His peach blossom eyes were similar to Tang Susu's, dazzling and eye-catching. When he smiled, he looked like an arsonist. Third brother was lazy and wild. It was said that he inherited his pair of phoenix eyes from his grandmother. They were long, narrow, and deep, revealing a fascinating and playful smile. However, once he spoke, he revealed a toughness that did not match his age. I didn't even get enough sleep, I don't want to guard the door. Don't mess around. Listen to your sister. I'm sure that Susu doesn't want to meddle in other people's business. Besides, they're a group of people who have grudges with us. Why do they need us to protect them? When Tang Susu went downstairs, she saw the sunlight shining through the floor-to-ceiling window in the living room, and the breeze was just right. On the long European table, Mrs. Tang had already prepared all kinds of breakfast. There were so many varieties, and they were even more nutritious than before the apocalypse. The charming middle-aged woman greeted everyone with a smile. We've been exercising a lot now, so we should eat something good. Seeing that she was still busy, Tang Susu walked into the kitchen to help her. She suddenly thought of something and stopped. Mom, I don't like Yuching anymore. I even find him a little annoying. You don't have to be so polite to him. Yes, I can tell. Mrs. Tang wasn't surprised at all. She raised her flour-covered hand and knocked her on the head with her wrist. This little brat's finally opened up. She's always been so obsessed with the son and wouldn't listen to us no matter what. She even refused to eat in protest. There are so many men better than him in the world. Tang Susu blinked innocently, but she found it funny. Men would only affect the speed at which she pulled out her knife. When Yucheng was called over by Mr. Tang and saw the warm and beautiful scene of the Tang family preparing breakfast, he was slightly startled. Ever since his mother passed away, his family was essentially gone. His father was busy with his career and did not lack women. There were many half-brothers and half-sisters in the family, but none of them were legitimate. This was also one of the reasons why he became friends with Mingzhou and often went to the Tang family. Tang Mingzhou walked to his side. Why do you look so pale? Did you not sleep well last night? Yu Qing glanced at him. Why do you change your clothes every day? I didn't realize you were so smug before. Oh, I guess I won't be able to wear all of them even if I change one set a day. Yu Qing looked down at the clothes he had been wearing for 3 days, and scolded jokingly, why didn't you say so earlier? Quickly lend me a few sets to wear. I already reminded you a few days before the apocalypse. What were you doing? Didn't I think you were joking at that time? It was because of the hacker. His expression became serious. Chapter 35. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Tracking down the mysterious hacker, Tang Mingqi happened to come in from outside and heard him say that. My second uncle called me on the night of the 4th to tell me that the country had found out that the mysterious hacker is near the southern city. He asked me to investigate this matter quickly because the hacker might know more details. In an instant, Tang Mingqi's eyes quickly met with Tang Mingzhou's in the air and then fell silent. I've spent a huge sum of money to find a few top hackers, and they all said that it would take a few days to determine the exact location. Tang Mingzhou's warm and flowing eyes narrowed slightly. So, you didn't find anything? Who knew that the apocalypse would suddenly break out? All internet communications have been cut off. There should be no more clues. At this moment, Tang Susu came out with a plate of fried vegetable pancakes. Yu Qing exclaimed in a sinister voice, but the mysterious hacker took the risk to inform the entire country in this way, which can be said to have reduced the casualties and losses by at least 30%. I just don't know who he is. Knock. She slowly placed the delicate porcelain plate on the table and interrupted their conversation. Yu Qing furrowed his brows as he noticed the pancake made of potato and shredded radish. It was wrapped in egg flour and diced ham. Each of them was golden, crispy, and beautiful. The faint fragrance lingered in his nose, and it was even more appetizing than the ones sold in the market. I'm starving, let me try one. Tang Mingqian rolled over like a whirlwind, grabbed one, and stuffed it into his mouth. Huff, it's hot. Mrs. Tang pushed him away with a smile. He was so hungry when Susu was frying them just now. He was waiting for a long time. What a glutton. Yu Qing was tempted by his table manners. Tang Susu took the porcelain plate and placed it in front of her. One for Dad, one for Mom. This one is for Big Brother. This chubby one is for second brother and one for third brother. You didn't taste it just now. She picked up the last one and put it in her bowl. Hurry up and eat. Why are you looking at me? Tang Mingqi and Tang Mingqian seemed to have understood something. They glanced at Yu Qing and immediately started eating with great relish. Yu Qing could not help but secretly give Tang Mingzhou a look, as if to say, look, she's starting to think of other ways to attract my attention again. Tang Mingzhou could not be bothered with him. You eat this. It was a fried spring roll. It came from Tang Mingqian, who did it on a whim. Yu Qing. This friend was indeed his dear friend. Just as he bit the bullet and ate the black thing, the Tang family members praised Tang Susu one by one. It's so delicious. Susu, how did you make this? One is not enough. Stop eating. You've already had one. Don't even think about it. She made this seafood porridge too. You guys eat this, quickly give me a bowl. I could smell the fragrance from far away. The family eagerly lined up to get the seafood porridge. Yu Qing thought, is there a need to exaggerate like this? They started to boast brainlessly. Then, Tang Mingzhou suddenly remembered his existence and served him the remaining seafood porridge at the bottom of the pot. Yu Qing finished it in one breath. She was completely speechless. If he said that he wanted to eat another bowl, wouldn't this guy be too smug? But when did she become so good at cooking? In his memory, she never had to cook and never even prepared a bowl of instant noodles before. It was the men's business to eat and drink to their heart's content. However, before they could clean up the dishes, there was an urgent knock on the door. Through the floor.to ceiling windows in the living room, he could see the scenery of more than half of the courtyard. They walked over and saw the group of people from yesterday. No, there were even more people than yesterday standing outside the door, looking forward to it. They didn't even restrain their voices. Is their house big enough for us? If it's not enough, let them sleep on the floor of the living room. What's wrong with making do at a critical moment? Chapter 36. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I'll kill every single one of you. As soon as Tang Susu opened the door, the 2 security guards and the property manager were still in the lead. There were 20 people behind them, and after a while, the momentum was great. In addition to the owners they had seen yesterday, there were a few new faces, probably their family members. The other girl, called Fengli, was accompanied by 5 other young men and women, all of whom were rich second generation. Seeing that they only opened the door after a long time, she grumbled, "Why are you only here now? We've been waiting for half a day." Tang Susu casually glanced at them. "That's strange. Did we make you wait?" "You." Alright, don't bother with her." Fengli hurriedly pressed her friend down and impatiently looked behind the Tang family. Security and property management were also looking for Yu Cheng. Unfortunately, he was forced to stay at home by Tang Susu. She didn't want him to come out in case he ruined her plans. Tang Susu discreetly blocked their peeking. "What's the matter?" When the security guard saw that Yu Cheng wasn't around, he immediately put away the respectful expression on his face, and there was even a hint of dominance. "Where's your father? I don't want to talk to this silly girl." In fact, he had seen her slyness and knew that she was not easy to deal with. Before the group of people came, they had carefully formulated a strategy and were determined not to listen to her bewitchment and be provoked by her. On the other hand, he had to start with Mr. Tang and Yu Cheng, who seemed to be the easiest to communicate with. Who knew that the 2 of them weren't here? The soft-hearted Mr. Tang was naturally coaxed by Tang Susu to stay at home. She seemed to have anticipated their plans. No matter how they jumped, she remained calm. "Alright then, I won't keep you company." "Stop. Who let you go?" The bespectacled woman had been unhappy with her for a long time. At this moment, when she opened her mouth, her voice was as if it had been dipped in poison, and it was mean and sharp. "You brat, do you have any manners? Can't you see that this person is unconscious because of you? And the old, young, women, and children are coming here so early in the morning. If you don't invite them in to sit, have your 9 years of compulsory education been fed to the dogs? Don't you know how to respect the old and love the young? That's some shit coming out of your mouth." Tang Mingchen angrily drew out a large knife and swung it at her. The woman was so frightened that she screamed and fell to the ground on her butt. Her face was scrunched up in pain. "Clean your mouth. I'm not as easy to talk to as my sister. And all of you, get the fuck out of my sight, or I'll kill every single one of you." The group of people retreated in horror. "Don't do anything stupid, murder is illegal. Who knows if you will die in my hands or in the hands of zombies." Tang Mingchen sneered. Everyone's expressions changed instantly. They didn't dare to mess with them anymore, and they wanted to fly back immediately. At this moment, Tang Susu seemed to have taken a step back. "So, if you've got something to say, can't you just talk it out properly? Maybe there's still room for discussion." Seeing that she had taken the initiative to speak, the group of people immediately felt that her face was friendly. They all looked at the security guard, signaling him to stop wasting time. The security guard frowned and felt that something was amiss. "It's like this. Since you're not willing to guard the door, it might be a good idea to gather all the people together to manage it." "Oh, where should we gather them?" Tang Susu tilted her head curiously. Tang Mingzhou and Tang Mingqi held back their laughter. How could watching this bunch of clowns be more interesting than watching their precious little sisters acting? To make it easier for us to move, it's best if we all stay in the same villa. You guys probably don't want to go anywhere else. It just so happens that this location is not bad, so we'll just stay here. Yeah. Anyway, this villa doesn't belong to your family. You just rented it. 4 floors are enough for us to live in. We can live in one room for each family. We can still get through it if we squeeze in. Chapter 37. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Endless pestering. Tang Susu quietly waited for them to finish their conversation. She was smiling, but she wasn't angry. This made everyone feel a little uneasy. What was she thinking? Unknowingly, everyone's thoughts had been affected by her. The security guard was a little annoyed. When the time comes, everyone can take turns to keep watch. I'll be in charge of patrolling the entrance and the nearby areas. If there's anything, I'll inform you immediately. There's such a plus. Tang Susu blinked her eyes in surprise. The security guard was instantly relieved. Of course. It's dangerous for me to patrol outside, so it would be better if I had a weapon. At this moment, someone immediately chimed in. The knives you guys are using look pretty good. What era are we living in now? How can a knife be more useful than a gun? Didn't Mr. Yu have a gun yesterday? If he gave it to the security guards, it would be more secure. That's right. What are you hesitating for? Just agree to it. With that, the group of people smiled and pretended to squeeze in. Just now, they could smell the strong fragrance from the courtyard. Perhaps they were having breakfast. The food seemed to be good. These 2 days, they had eaten the last bit of vegetables at home and were almost tired of eating white rice. But, Tang Susu's slow turn suddenly caught everyone's attention. We didn't say we weren't going to guard the door. The security guard's expression changed drastically. Even Tang Mingchen looked at her in disbelief. After some discussion, our family has decided to be generous and serve everyone by taking turns to guard the door, but that's all. No one had expected her to say that. Caught off guard, they didn't know how to respond. But I also think that it's safer to stay together, however it's definitely not convenient for you to go in and out of our house. I know a villa in the best location. Not only is it hidden, but also convenient to evacuate. You'll be absolutely safe there. Where? Someone couldn't help but ask. Eddie, however, most of the people were not just here to freeload. This family was well dressed and full of energy. They looked like they were living a good life. If they could live in the house, would they dare to eat at everything by themselves? No, I still think it's better here. I don't mind. An elegant old lady walked arrogantly in front. Seeing that Tang Susu's 3 brothers were standing at the door like door gods, she was instantly displeased. Get out of the way. Do you know who I am? Yeah, she's the mayor's great-aunt, the mayor's only elder. Tang Mingchi smiled faintly. Then why didn't the mayor bring you with him? It must be very safe by his side, so why don't you all follow her and be cared for together? Everyone's face stiffened. They had been trying to please this old woman because of this, but who knew that this aunt was even worse than a distant relative? It was just that her hometown was in the same village. Seeing that they no longer fell for this trick, the old lady immediately tilted her body. I can't take it anymore. My head is so dizzy. It's over. She's not in good health. She might die. Can you bear the consequences? Don't block the way, let her in to rest. The group of people tried their best to pester them. The adults were noisy, and the children who were dragged here to act pitiful were also crying at the top of their lungs. Mommy, I'm so hungry. Behind the floor-to-ceiling window, Yu Qing saw that the group was trying to force their way in by relying on their numbers. Tang Susu's delicate figure was drowned in the crowd, and it was obvious that she could not deal with it. No good, I want to go out and take a look. Achoo. Mrs. Tang followed her daughter's orders and quickly pulled him back. Believe in Susu, she can do it. I caused this trouble. I'll solve it myself. How do you want to solve this? Mr. Tang was anxious and couldn't help but feel a little resentful. Although he knew that Yuqing didn't do it on purpose, he still didn't want to let Susu deal with the mess he made. However, before Yuqing could speak, a scream was heard after a gunshot. Everyone was so shocked that they all stopped what they were doing and looked at this scene in a daze. No one had expected that Tang Susu would suddenly open fire. It wasn't just a simple threat, but a direct shot at someone. When they reacted, the group of people screamed and fled in all directions. Afraid that Tang Susu would catch up to him, a man turned around in horror and saw the girl with a pure and beautiful angelic face smiling sweetly. My patience is limited. If you all still don't understand human language, you'll be like him. Tang Susu pulled the trigger and fired another shot. This time, it wasn't the calf, but the forehead. Chapter 38. You are listening at novelfull.audio. S.Rank mission. The world fell silent. The security guard Jean Dehai and the spectacled woman were hiding behind the crowd, their legs weak. They were staring at Tang Susu's every move. It was because they were afraid that they would be next. Killed, she killed someone. The mayor's great aunt's lips turned pale, and she fainted right after she finished speaking. No one could care about her, including the fat man they were carrying, Hiroi. After being caught by the zombies yesterday, although he wasn't infected, he had a high fever. He was in a daze and was awakened by the sound of gunfire. As soon as he opened his eyes, he was faced with the black muzzle of a gun. Get lost. He got up weakly, covered his shoulder, and ran toward the crowd, using both his hands and feet in a funny way. However, no one could laugh. Tang Susu kicked the man she had killed. Do as I say. Move to Villa 17. Villa 17. Tang Mingqi's eyes flashed. Wasn't that the place where the crazy woman from yesterday was staying? That area was not bad, but there was a zombie and a crazy woman there. The group definitely wouldn't have the mood to harass them. Tang Susu thought that these people dared to run around because they had cleared all the zombies in the villa area. The group of people did not dare to disobey and left as if they were escaping. What did you do? Did you really kill him? Yuqing rushed out like an arrow, quickly checking the man on the ground. He thought that this might be an act by Tang Susu. But when he saw the real bullet hole in the man's forehead, he gasped in shock. He's really dead. Mr. and Mrs. Tang almost passed out. Everyone, don't be anxious. There must be a reason for this. Tang Mingzhou quickly consoled them. Yes, this person was a murderer on the run. How did you know? Yuqing's expression was sharp, showing a bit of disbelief. Then you can go and report the case and arrest me. Tang Susu naturally couldn't explain to him that in the game, this seemingly unremarkable scum had almost wiped out the main character's team. Now that one of the main characters was with them, she didn't want to be implicated, so she might as well kill two birds with one stone. Using violence to curb violence, intimidation was one of them. The most important thing was to nip the problem in the bud. Yuqing's handsome brows furrowed at her words. No wonder those people's faces turned green and white just now. She had been in control the entire time. He finally understood how powerful her mouth was. But when did her critical thinking ability and aura become so strong? Looking at the dead body on the ground, Mr. Tang couldn't take it anymore and looked away. It wasn't until Susu said that their whole family was going to guard the door in Chui Di Lake Garden that his mood changed. Tang Mingqian did not understand. Why do we have to guard the door? It's because it's inconvenient for us to go out during the day under the eyes of so many people, but it's not necessarily the case at night. We can also take the opportunity to kill more zombies to practice. Everyone reluctantly accepted this explanation. In fact, Tang Susu had only agreed to it because of the new mandatory mission. An S.rank mission with a reward of 100 points. Guard Chui Di Lake Garden for 20 days. If she could complete this task, she would be able to buy a prosthetic limb for her big brother. That way, he would be able to quickly join in the normal training. Moreover, when they were on the road in the future, not only did they have to adapt to the battle during the day, but they also had to get used to the night mode. There was no harm in adapting in advance. After a discussion, the family decided that the security guard would be responsible for guarding the door during the day, and the Tang family would be responsible for guarding the door at night. With the exception of Jean Dehai and the spectacled woman, who had failed to achieve their goal, the rest of the people were satisfied with the arrangement. Even if they were not satisfied, who would dare to object? Fortunately, they found that Villa 17 was in a good location. There was a small door next to it where they could escape. They were also invited to have meat by the owner. It was just that the meat was a little sour, and it made her bare her teeth. Chapter 39. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Night training. Because the night watch was very tiring, that night, Tang Susu coaxed and begged her parents before they agreed to take her along. However, her three brothers couldn't bear to let her suffer, so they worked together to move a foldable bed into the security room. If it wasn't for Tang Susu's firm obstruction, they would have stuffed the air conditioner and refrigerator inside. In the end, they could only place a small pink fan in the room. The folding bed was covered with a smooth and cool handmade ice silk mat. They were afraid that she would catch a cold, so they put up a thin plush blanket, a soft quilt, and her favorite buckwheat pillow. The weather in the south in June was already hot and dry, so it was very comfortable to sleep in such a bed. Finally, they put up a circle of muslin curtains to prevent mosquitoes and peeping so that she could sleep well. The security room wasn't big, and after they fiddled with it for a long time, there was only space for a table and chair. Tang Susu didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but she felt warm inside. She had to personally guard Chui Di Lake Garden for 20 days, but she had to leave a group of people to guard the house every day. It was mainly to prevent the owners from sneaking into their house, discovering their supplies, or doing something harmful to them. As a result, the Tang family had divided into 2 shifts to guard the door. Mr. Tang, Mrs. Tang and Tang Mingchen were in one shift. Tang Mingzhou and Tang Mingqi were in the other shift, with Tang Susu being in both shifts. The distribution principle was to try to maintain the overall level of the 2 groups of people to be similar. Tang Mingchu was furious. Am I too weak in intelligence or fighting? Why are you putting me in Mom and Dad's group? No one paid him any attention. The family continued to discuss the plan. The people who stayed at home could not relax too much either. They had to arrange for one person to keep watch at night. At least, they could not relax for the next few days because Jean Dehai and his gang were likely to take action. They couldn't completely waste the day either. Other than catching up on sleep, they had to continue practicing marksmanship at home. Tang Susu spent another 20 million to buy a universal ancient martial arts manual for them. It was easy to understand and had no basic requirements. Even Mrs. Tang could learn it. This cultivation method was very similar to the killer's path. It aimed directly at the vital parts and each move was fatal. It could strengthen one's body and also let them master many killing techniques. Tang Susu knew that one person wasn't really strong. She couldn't protect them all the time. Only when the whole team was strong could they survive longer and more safely in the apocalypse. Therefore, the training method was also divided into 2 types. Learning and practice, day and night, step by step, methodically. After finalizing the new plan, the family quickly split into 2. At night, the zombies became more hungry and irritable. Many of them came out and wandered on the streets. Their blood-red mouths were wide open, and they were panting heavily. Taking advantage of the small number of people out and about, the family opened the door and went out to kill to their heart's content. When more and more zombies heard the commotion and rushed over, they ran back and fired through the iron door to practice their shooting skills. Practicing shooting at home meant that the target was still. Even if one learned it, it didn't mean that one could hit a moving target and kill it in one shot. So, in order not to waste ammunition, they had to learn dynamic shooting as soon as possible. Tang Susu was their coach. As for the various skills she knew, everyone had already gone from being surprised to being taking it for granted. One or two of them nodded their heads as they listened. The night grew darker. When layers and layers of zombies were stacked together, trying to climb over the iron door, the four of them realized that there were at least 3 times more zombies here at night than during the day. Where did so many zombies come from? Mrs. Tang gulped nervously. Will the gunshots attract more of them? With such a high concentration of zombies, they didn't even need to aim to hit them. At this time, Tang Susu took out her high-power shotgun and shot a large number of zombies with it. After a few explosions, the ground was covered with countless broken limbs. Tang Susu smiled as she reloaded her gun. Don't panic. We can handle it. Let's continue. Chapter 40. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Discovery, Night Raid. At the same time, Tang Mingqi and his eldest brother were sitting opposite each other on the sofa. Their slender and well-proportioned legs were crossed. One was as warm as jade, while the other was fresh and handsome. The living room was cold and quiet with no lights on. The moonlight poured in like water. In the silence of the room, no one spoke. What is it you want to say? Tang Mingzhou leaned forward and picked up a red and plump apple. His knuckles were clean and distinct. In the blink of an eye, he had peeled off a thin and long peel and handed the apple over. Tang Mingqi took a big bite. Don't you feel that Susu has changed too much? At the thought of his sister, the man's lips curved into a doting smile. Has she? She has the system, so she might have had some fortuitous encounter. But can a person obtain countless skills in such a short time, change her character, double her IQ, and even kill people without changing her expression? Tang Mingzhou's expression turned serious. Do you think she's in the wrong? No, I didn't mean it that way. Tang Mingqi quickly clarified and felt a little wrong from being misunderstood. I won't say that she's right either, but even if she's wrong, so what? She's my sister. I'll support her no matter what she does. The young man said this in a rude and overbearing manner. Then that's it. Tang Mingzhou suddenly quieted down as he laughed. His dark eyes seemed to be filled with pain and reluctance. We've done all that we could for the old Susu. Tang Mingqi's pupils trembled, as if he had verified some kind of guess, and his heart ached. After a long time, he seemed to be trying to convince himself. The current Susu is also our sister. Then why are you still so conflicted? Tang Mingzhou could not help but heave a sigh of relief. I just feel sorry for what she has gone through in the past to have such a strong character and ability. A hint of sadness flashed across Tang Mingzhou's face. The fragrance of plum blossoms came from the bitter cold. She must have suffered a lot in the past to cherish everyone and every opportunity so much. She didn't dare to slack off in the slightest. Suddenly, Tang Mingqi's ear twitched and broke the depressed atmosphere. Someone's coming. The corners of Tang Mingzhou's lips curled up. He unhurriedly picked up the crossbow on the coffee table and aimed it at the window. The arrow was shot out with a whoosh, and a miserable cry was heard. Immediately after, Yu Cheng's curses could be heard. Who are you? What are you doing here? Stop, don't run. He could only hear 2 footsteps running away quickly, one after the other. After a short while, Yu Cheng walked over in a rage. That brat ran pretty fast. It's a teenager, should be from the group of people from earlier in the day. In the end, the 2 of them sat on the sofa leisurely and did not move. One was drinking tea while the other was eating oranges. It was a very pleasant scene. Aren't you afraid that the other party might have a motive? We've made all the necessary preparations. Only the other party is afraid of us. Tang Mingzhou snorted, what are you doing here? Ahem, I know I did something stupid and brought you trouble. As an apology, you don't have to return the 10 million you borrowed from me. In front of Tang Mingzhou, Yu Qing tore up the loan receipt he had written. At that time, the Tang family had been crazily storing up supplies and did not have enough money, so Tang Mingzhou had borrowed 10 million from Yu Qing. It was only with their relationship that they could borrow money without giving a reason. If I had known, I would have borrowed 100 million. Yu Qing's mouth twitched. Where's your baby sister? Tang Mingqi immediately looked at him as if he was a thief. Aren't you the most annoyed with her? Yu Qing froze for a moment and was also a little puzzled. He actually cared about where that troublemaker went. I'm just afraid that she'll come around. Hee, don't think too much. Susu doesn't care about you at all now. Yu Qing frowned. Is there anything else? Tang Mingzhou was a little impatient and wanted to chase him away. He could practice the cultivation technique that Susu gave him even if his legs were not good. He could not wait to use it to improve his strength. Speaking of business, Yu Qing's face darkened. Do you have a radio? My second uncle's men haven't come yet. I'm a little worried that something happened to them.